All right, welcome back. Right now we'll take a look at the national dailies, and we'll start with the Daily Trust newspaper here. The front page there on below the mast says 2024 Hajj, Nakan gives intended pilgrims 3 weeks to deposit 4.5 million naira. Beside there, you see mixed reactions as CBN lifts the FX ban on rice, cement, toothpicks, and 40 others. You'll find this story on page 19. ICPC begins tracking of 500 billion naira constituency project. The major story there says Tinubu breaches law on Olukoyode's appointment as EFCC chair. That's according to experts. No law violated, replied from the presidency. You'll find this intriguing story on page 4. Tinubu asks the Supreme Court to dismiss Atiku's appeal. You'll find this on page 10. The troops uncover bodies in IPOB's enclaves. You'll find this on page 26. 270 universities seek licenses as federal government opens space for foreign institutions. You'll find this on page 26 as well. You see beside that there's a pictorial of the scene of explosion involving 3 tankers at Orile Igamu in Lagos State yesterday. A really sad situation there. Below the pictorial, we have many feared dead and trapped in the 3 tankers fire accidents in Lagos. Now, these are some of the stories on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
It's so appalling when we get to hear the same story all over again. The Itakbawari Expressway, there was a spillage and people who were scooping fuel out of this tanker. Over 20 people died, and the same thing just happened. So
a really sad situation.
It's a really sad situation. Anyway, let's move on to the Punch newspaper, where the lead story has a kicker that says Forex a crisis. CBN raises dollar supply, lifts ban on cement and 42 items. The Riders attached to the story says 8-year Forex ban on rice, 42 other removed, and CBN insists on single Forex rate. The other one says private sector manufacturers hail federal government. Cardoso plans more Forex policy reviews. All right, page 2 has details of the lead story in the Punch newspaper this morning. Atiku's evidence from Chicago irrelevant, Tinubu tells Supreme Court. Okay, that's above the lead story there. Page 25 has details of that story. And Akika, Israeli, Hamas, US, UK, India evacuate citizens. Death hits 2,700. Page 28 has details of that story. Then complete AAK gas pipeline 2024. Federal government orders contractors. All right, that story is on page 19. Let's take a look at the bottom story, the pictorial. And then diesel landing a tanker crashes on Lagos highway, traps bus. And that's what we just talked about. See the pictorial of lots of people scooping fuel out of this diesel laden lanker. Okay, this is diesel actually. They're actually taking diesel out of this, not knowing that this could explode in any moment. People lost their lives, but you can get details of this report on page 4 and 5 in the Punch newspaper. The bottom strip says LPPC names 58 lawyers. A senior advocate of Nigeria drops 11 professors. Why this happened? Get more details on page 28. 2 die, others injured in Osun collapsed building. Another sad event there. Sad incident rather. 4 and 5 has details. And then PSC promotes 12 commissioners and 5,706 police personnel. That's about the stories we'll be taking on the front page of the Punch this morning.
The front page of the Nation carries from the top there, work begins on 260 federal roads nationwide and projects to cost 217 billion naira. Olukoyode gets nod as EFCC chairman. Why he was picked? You'll find this on page 28. Africa's debt relief call legitimate, says the IMF MD. 2 die, 4 injured in Osun Church building collapse. You'll find this story on page 5 and 26, respectively. Below the Mazda, it says how CBN's lifting of restrictions on 43 items will affect the economy. We have PSC promotes 5,718 police officers. The Abuad raises pay by 35%. You'll find this on page 26. The lead story says Atiku's appeal lacks facts, Tinubu tells Supreme Court. Rather, there says claims on my Chicago Varsity credentials cooked up, says the president. You'll find this on page 4. Why EFCC has not reconvened. There's details on that on page 28. Below the belt there it says Kwara police disowns suspected killers of hotelier. You'll find these stories and more in The Nation this morning.
All right, let's move on to this day newspaper. The master, the story there, it says Tinubu to Supreme Court. Dismiss Atiku's appeal, it's abuse of court process. That story started on the front page, continue reading on page 5. And then below that, we have AFCON 2023. Interestingly, Nigeria pit against host Cote d'Ivoire and the Guineans. All right, page 39 has a sports update there. And there's a pictorial of the Vice President of Nigeria flanked by Deputy Governor of Lagos State and the Minister of Power and other dignitaries there at the Agbara Business Roundtable held in Agbara, Ogun State on Thursday. I get details of that. Then history as Olukoyode, first Christian, first Southerner, is appointed EFCC chair, and the ex-agency boss Bawa resigns. All right, to get details of that in This Day newspaper, page 5 has details. Then CBN lifts forex restrictions on importation of rice, cement, palm oil, 40 other items. All right, get details of that in This Day newspaper. And Ganduje, Southeast cry of marginalization controversial. We want to get details of that and why this statement or this is coming from the Ganduje. You read that on page 36 this morning and This Day newspaper.
Okay, poor funding, low patronage rob Nigerian sport 500 billion naira revenue yearly. Now, this is the major story of the Guardian newspaper this morning. Below that, we see controversy trails appointment of lawyer Olukoyode as the EFCC chair. The federal government talks tough on sexual harassment in the universities. You find this on page 7. CBN lifts restriction of 43 items, unveils the measures to address distortions. You find this on page 18. 23.8 million family businesses contribute $200 billion to Nigeria's economy yearly. Interesting one you find on page 18. Now, these are some of the stories on the Guardian newspaper this morning. And of course, right now, these are the front pages that we can take this morning on the show. But right now, we have Nuruddin Abdullah, editor, 21st Century Chronicle, joining us to review the headlines. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning, and it's good to have you again on this beautiful Friday morning.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, a lot of things happening here.
Yes.
And
let's talk about, the CBN ban, lifting the ban.
I know you were going to start with
yes, that is what we need to
Okay.
talk about, because also, apart from the Olukoyode nomination, that's also what is, stirring up controversies on different social media platforms, where people are talking and they are for and against. But what is your take on the situation?
Okay, I mean the CBN,
Yes,
EFCC,
yes, the CBN lifting the restrictions.
So you see, I think the economic situation, particularly in the last almost 3 months, with the coming of President Tinubu on board, he took some drastic economic measures. The unification of the Forex regime. Before you had multiple IMF, World Bank, up to about 6 or so. But he unified, blocking the holes on the removal of subsidy, you know, and what have you. So the economy has been affected seriously. A lot of pressure has been mounted on the economy. So there is need to, and the economic team, the ministers and what have you, have to devise ways of easing the tension, you know, stabilizing the economy, particularly the forest crisis. Despite the unification, you know, like the CBN are saying, you know, a lot of public officials are still stealing public funds, and they are still hoarding them in hard currency. Principally, they say that has been the issue. So that was why, even though at the INE, you see that it's about 770 something, but it climbed up to 1,036 naira, I think, 2 days ago. Still down margin. So we're talking about a margin of about 300, despite the unification. So the inflation, now, like you said, you know, you are sharing palliatives. So they are now saying that even buying paddy in the rice fields. So lifting, restricting, or restoring forex for these items, you know, will actually ease the economy. They will now bring in rice, for instance, and it will really, there will be availability, there will be competition, and we hope that the price will go down a bit. Others will cry, like the economists, the textbook economists. Buhari locked the borders for God knows when. When he opened it, he said that he achieved nothing by locking it for more than 2 years. So I think the current leadership, particularly their economic team, you know, they want to be realistic.
Okay, so now this reality now, or being realistic, in quote, just like you mentioned now, is it as a result of some of the measures that was put in place to make sure that Nigerians are patriotic, patronize the made in Nigeria goes, be self-sufficient, has been defeated? We didn't achieve so much, right? So now, what does this mean now, opening the borders? Is it something that we should do for a limited time, or is something that should continue as long as it can continue, just for us to face reality?
You can only lock your border when you have self-sufficiency.
Which you think you
At time of day, you are hungry.
So
and you are saying that you cannot buy from your neighbor. That is suicidal. That's what Buhari did. Okay, you saw what happened to Uncle Boros. It is now a subject of litigation. Over 1.17 trillion, more than 700 billion officially cannot be accounted for. Where's the rice? A 50 kg bag of local rice goes for almost 47,000 in northern part of Nigeria. And they are even going to the rice field now to buy paddy. So there is scarcity. We are not producing enough. And you lock the borders. Doesn't make any sense. That is why I said, you know, the present crop of leadership are being realistic, not jackbook, textbook economy like the Buhari did.
But some people are of the opinion that opening the border would actually, it would help from the beginning, but it might actually plunge us deeper into the situation.
Okay, how do you solve the two-digit inflation?
One of the highest in the history.
How do you solve it? There are politicians, in as much as they are economists. They have to look, people are crying. So they have to ease the tension. Okay, like now, take the textile for instance. If you want to farm, look at insecurity. People cannot even go to farm. At what interest rate do you get loan from the banks? So there are, and don't forget, we are signatory to AFTA. Yeah. Why are you locking your borders? Is that not contradictory?
To the laws and agreements.
We have signed free flow of goods, services among the 54 African countries. Then why are you locking your borders? Buhari signed after, and he's locking borders again. There's no confusion. So with the problem, consistent problem, and you know, for other aspects to succeed, like the subsidy removal, you know, it has jacked up so many things, particularly the Commonwealth of people, the inflation, whatever. Now with this thing, they believe that it will stabilize prices, improve the purchasing power of Nigerians, and what have you. And you know, after some time, maybe they will review it. But you can't just, you don't have food at home and you lock your border, you cannot buy from your neighbor. Then you'll end up in hospital bed, for instance.
Let's get your quick thought on our lead story and the Daily Trust this morning. The back and forth between the presidency and, of course, the expert. They've said that Tinubu has breached the law on Olukoyode's appointment as EFCC chair. Not forgetting that, you know, in this paper this day, I talk about the first Christian, the first Southerner has been appointed as EFCC
I don't know. I don't know why these days is that material. It is not. And even the argument between, you know, people must always argue.
But it's just justified.
If you read the statement of the presidency, very unlike them, they say by the powers, they started quoting the section where the president drives his power for the appointment. That was how it started, you understand, because they saw this coming. And they must have been advised. The president has an entire Ministry of Justice full of lawyers.
They envisaged this, yet
they're still pushed.
Of course, everybody that serves in the executive arm is there, the discretion of the president. One, we are practicing democracy. And we still have laws that say that you must be a military, and what of democracy are we practicing? If we have such laws, they should be repealed. Why must it be a military man? EFCC is not going to Sambisa, or Birnungwari, or Benue Forest, and what have you. Anti-corruption.
Not necessarily a military man. He should have worked in a law enforcement agency.
What is law enforcement agent? Who are doing the prosecutions?
EFCC.
This guy is a lawyer.
He is a lawyer. He has worked.
He served there almost 10 years. Chief of staff to the EFCC chairman and secretary, permanent secretary of the commission. And you are saying that he's not qualified?
Now, this is an interesting conversation. I wish he was a monk.
Okay,
you know,
yes,
the discussion.
Divergent views about that,
you understand?
actually.
As far as I'm concerned, he's a lawyer, chief of staff, secretary of the commission. From 2018 till 2022, when he was suspended during the Magu matter.
So we just hope, you know, we have to just wait for the Senate to make the confirmation to hear what, you know, their reasons would be. All right, so away from that, let's talk about the reply of the president to Atiku, where he told the Supreme Court that the Atiku camp cooked the story up about his credential. What's your take on that?
You know, it's a political matter, even though it is legal because before the Supreme Court now. I think the whole thing, you know, the litigation and what have you was shifted to the social media pages, all manner of analysis. But like I normally say, the judges, the learned judges, they doesn't listen to analysis by Sumaya or Haji Amardia to reach their verdict. They have their books. You know, and you know we have a very ultra-conservative Supreme Court. We have, you know, you look at their trajectory. Like I said once, it is not only the law. We saw what happened in 2007 with Aradwa, with Buhari. There was a tie. Yeah, election was flawed. Conduct a new election. The others say no, Nigeria cannot afford another presidential election. So there are other sensitive things that they look in accordance with the law before they pass their judgment. So the legal gymnastics, I think it is Atiku thing, more or less they are doing a media campaign because like the evidence they presented to the Supreme Court, Based on our statute books, you can introduce fresh evidence at the appellate court, you understand? That issue should have been presented before the Court of Appeal, which was the court of the first instance, as far as that case is concerned. So, but it's left for the Supreme Court judges, like the article laws are saying, no, yes, they can accept fresh evidence if certain conditions are met. And he said those conditions were met in the U.S. But we left to be see whether people from Chicago University or what have you, you don't present witnesses during the appellate proceedings. That's another thing. So I think the whole thing
when
is...
When it gets to the apex court, anyway, there have been talks about that when it gets to the apex court.
You don't produce, no. They review the judgment and the evidence produced at that time. That's why they say you can't produce fresh evidence and you can't produce witnesses. So, but whether the Supreme Court, it is learned wisdom, will shift from the norm, is left to be seen.
Anyway, just like you mentioned, we have rises in place, post-election matters, I would say.
Exactly,
Let's take a look at the Punch. I see a very, very appalling pictorial there where diesel-laden tanker crashes, and before it crashed, we saw a lot of Nigerians who probably listened to the news 2 weeks ago where the Warri explosion happened, and then we see this set of people still scooping diesel out of a tanker. What can you say to this act from some Nigerians?
Two factors, I think, may be responsible for this.
Okay.
Abject poverty and illiteracy. Yes.
You think the media and different stakeholders have not done enough, or past stories about this event have not taught people about the hazard?
If you content analyze these issues, you realize that one community has suffered this thing not once, not twice. And people die. But if the tanker crashes, they will still go and scoop for it.
And you'll be surprised, some are actually educated. Educated people still join in this.
Yeah, but the poverty aspect of it. Yeah, they want to make, without knowing the consequence.
Interesting.
A small, I think everybody will go. But it's the most unfortunate that this thing. And maybe one of the ways of ending this is to have an active railway system. Whereby you won't be seeing all these heavy duty trucks carrying these combustible products along the way, like it used to be. When you do that, you know, the railway has safer compared to the roads. The roads are bad. The motorists, I don't know, we call it in house Hajiana Iya. You know, you don't need any certification from anybody. You can just Hajiana Iya, I can drive. That is it. Driving under the influence. So many factors are responsible for this. So maybe the best way to do this is when all these combustible products are now being ferried along the railway, but you have to have a functional railway system. Look at the AKK. Those pipes that are being ferried, is it from Port Harcourt to Lagos? They used to be ferried through the old gauge down to Kano. But now it has stopped for modern air. That's why they have to get some extra large trucks, and they're repairing just 3. So look at the time this thing will take from Lagos to Kano, or thereabout. So I think maybe the presidency or whoever should focus on the railway. We will safeguard our roads, we will safeguard lives and properties, you know, and our roads will even last longer.
Okay, speaking about road, but before then, why not Alhaji Naiya? Why Hajiana Iya?
No, if Hajiada is behind the, you know, when they ban motorcycles in Abuja, for instance, they all upgraded to this tricycle. When they banned tricycle, they upgraded to the Okada is now a Keke Napep operator. When you ban Keke Napep, it automatically becomes a taxi operator.
Taxi, yes.
Without any semblance of learning and what have you?
Oh, train.
And you know, most of
it's
this,
still, you know, chaotic there. All right, speaking about the road, where you see that the federal government needs to work on the roads, it says on the Nation newspaper that the work would begin on 260 federal roads nationwide, and the project is to cost 217 billion naira. How do you foresee this happening? Because we saw, you know, years pass and roads, the major roads are not really taken care of. Do you think this can be delivered?
Sorry, 217
billion naira.
billion or 2.something trillion?
And it says 217 billion.
Okay, it's not much.
It's not much.
It's not much because Abuja to Kano was awarded at the cost of nearly 800 billion. And the what they call the East Coast Road that passes across almost 7 states, we need about 600 billion to complete it. NNPC has awarded 21 roads at the cost of about, is it 62 billion? But I don't even know what happened to those roads again. You know, they were Buhari roads. Yeah, I think maybe to be fair to the government, for instance, in the work ministry, I think the person they put there, is it Umahi or who?
David Umahi.
David Umahi. I think, yeah, he knows his onions. I watch his clips. Apparently, he knows his onions.
From starting to lock his staff outside for coming late.
Yeah, of course.
To give him warnings to contractors.
Accountability.
And you know, it is working. Just like, yeah, look at Wike in Abuja. Abuja requires somebody like Wike. It was in Daily Trust that they said that two things, you know, it's a win-win. Newspapers got adverts, more than almost 100 pages. The moment that advert was published, they said that in the next 2 days, the FCT realized about 3 billion naira.
I think people were queuing in the numbers at their offices to actually make inquiry, pay for ground rent and all of that.
Exactly, you understand? Because Wike is here. So the same thing with Umahi. I saw the argument. He said that we should be doing limestone road, the cement roads. And the truth is this: no road, no matter who built it, it can be JB or whoever, can last up to 8 years.
Yeah, and
so it's a vicious cycle.
He promised to deliver 100 years.
Environment, of course. Why can't you do the one that will last forever? Take Abuja, Kaduna, something now. Some portions have already started filling up. And now there will be environment. The contractor will come smiling. Yes, sir, we need. So I think, just like the Wike did in Abuja, some roads were padded, paid in full, with zero thing on ground. That cannot happen. Same thing with during his meeting with the contractors. I love the way he talked to them, and I hope the presidency, you know, you can't move faster than your principal. We should know that. I hope the presidency will give him all the support he needs, because these contractors, some of them are very powerful. They can even edgy and what have you. So I think it's a very, if he says he will do that, I think the man looks very serious with what he even did in Ebonyi. Ebonyi is one of the poor states in the southeast, for instance.
Right,
but go there.
Thank you very much.
Of course, that he will deliver.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your analysis on the national dailies this morning. Our guest has been Nuruddin Abdullah. He's the editor of 21st Century Chronicles. And of course, thank you so much for being here as always.